So in this video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to talk about a drill that is going to change how you hit the golf ball, and you are going to not want to return back to normal after discovering how to hit the golf ball with real compression. Now, to get started, the big difference with we look at professionals is when a professional golfer hits the ball, the hands are ahead of the club head, like so. And if we drew a line vertically through my lead ankle, you would see that a pro's club head, hands, hip and shoulder would be pretty much in line at this point in time. Now what happens with most amateurs is they end up looking more this way. Now this is why a pro can compress the ball, because that sort of compression comes from producing a delivery with less loft. Most amateurs are adding loft into that hitting zone. So the question is, how are we going to do it? And the answer is not probably what you're trying to do. I meet a lot of golfers that just try to rectify the poor impact position by just trying to get the hands further forward. Now the problem is, if I take my setup position here and I just push my hands forward, can you see what will happen is all it does, it just opens up the face. And the other problem is that this is why golfers then sort of shank it and stuff, because it also means that you're moving the club too much to the right of the target for a right-handed golfer, which doesn't work, because it kind of means you're either going to hit it miles to the right, or then you're going to end up having to do more of this to get the club face square. So if the answer doesn't necessarily lie so much in pushing the hands forward, then what is happening? Well, if I take a setup position here, like so, and I adopt a normal grip, okay, so that means that if you were to let go of the club, it falls on the instep of my lead thigh. But what I'm going to do is, instead of trying to push the hands forward that will open the face, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up my lower body, I'm going to rotate my chest, and that's going to allow my shoulders to open a little bit as well. And can you see what's starting to happen? Because my shoulder ends up changing its location, like so, can you see the way now, because my shoulder's moving further away from its original point, it's flattening the wrist, like so, okay? And then you see that way, I'm going to be able to naturally keep the club moving through, but I'm also going to be able to produce less loft as a byproduct of rotation rather than shaft lean. So how can you guys practice this? Well, I've got a nice little routine for you to follow. The key premise of this is going to be rotation, but also we need to get a feeling of getting unstuck. So to get a nice feeling, first and foremost, what you're going to do is you're going to have a very narrow stance, and you're basically going to stand incredibly open as you want to. But make sure your lead foot is facing towards the target, okay? Now as you hit a couple of shots from there, just back and through, what you'll be able to notice, or what you need to notice, I should really be saying here, is if I sort of hold a finished position again, because my pelvis, upper part of my left leg and chest are facing the target, it's so easy to keep my arms nice and straight, like so, okay? Now the other reason why I wanted you to practice with this open stance is, if you imagine I was swinging towards you for a moment and you draw a line on the back of my lead hip, can you see the way that I'm staying in contact? Okay, so I'm not moving closer to the ball, I'm just pulling this lead side back and out of the way, okay, like so. So again, from that face-on perspective, opening up my stance, keeping the lead hip back, basically means that I can keep my body positioned over the ball. So the two skills that you want to practice first are just getting very much used to an open stance, flare that lead leg, and just make sure when you hit it, you feel like you're pulling that lead hip back. And the reason why that is so key, I'm going to explain to you right now. Golfers tend to get stuck, or a better way of explaining it is what happens with a professional golfer is they will shift weight into the trail side in the backswing, they'll shift weight very early into the lead side in the downswing, but when they come to hitting the golf ball, as they allow this sort of lead leg to sort of straighten and continue to rotate, it gets the weight back off the leg so they can continue to move through. What happens with most golfers is you just get stuck on the leg. So a couple of ways in which you want to be playing around with this, in my opinion, is flare the foot, okay, when you go back to a more ordinary stance, and you need to start getting a bit more of a feeling of swinging it back. We know that we're going to need the rotation. We're trying to match up that same feeling of chest and pelvic rotation that we just experienced with that drill. But what we also want to do is get the feeling of coming up with the shot, okay? Similar to what I'm demonstrating here. So what we don't want to do is try and rotate and just stay down and keep all this weight stuck on this leg. See the way if I exaggerate it, say I'm coming up, okay? And that's what you need to kind of experiment with and play around with. Back, up. See what I'm doing here? So if I swing towards you, you can see, if you focus on that hip line again, see as I'm rotating, I'm coming up, okay, like so, but see my hip stays back. So what I'm not doing is I'm not staying down and getting completely stuck and handsy, I'm coming up and through the ball. And a great little drill you can do to practice this is just against the wall at home, okay? So if I get myself, I'll grip down on the club so you don't damage the wall, but see the way I'm not kind of just staying here and getting stuck with my rotation, I'm allowing my chest to keep rotating and I'm getting the feeling of coming up. So I'm getting the weight off that lead leg, which helps me continue this rotation and see the way I can keep my arm straight. That's a really good drill to get that feeling of up, and that's what you really need to be doing. So with students I work with, I break it down. Start with an open stance. The open stance will give you the feeling of shaft lean because your shoulders will be slightly more open at impact. Then what we need to start doing though is we can't just be hitting the golf ball with open shoulders and sort of staying down. We need to start incorporating this feeling of getting up through the ball and getting the weight off that lead leg. And the best way to do that is to practice against the wall drill. And if you can accumulate both those things together, you will be, well, completely changing how you hit the golf ball. Have a go. Let me know how you're getting on with it. I'll see you guys again really soon.